is even going to work. I've been having weird internet issues lately. Are you working okay? Hopefully. Alright, so how do you do? My name is Andrew Gatesy, I'm a writer, and this is 99geek.ca presents a book reading. The book we're reading today is A Suburban Fantasy. We've been reading this book quite a number of chapters already. We're already on chapter 6. So if you haven't been following along, here's what you missed. Previously on A Suburban Fantasy, which is season 1 of the Urban Fantasy series. Rachel Lin Smith is a cute little Asian girl, 16 years old, not very popular, very shy. She has a number of friends. They're nerds or geeks like her. She's a geek. She loves video games and comic books and pop culture. And her friends and her all go to the same high school and hang out together and do all kinds of things together. And one day she is invited to a birthday party at with the most popular girl in school, by the most popular girl in school, and it's in Toronto. And she decides she wants to go because she's tired of being shy and skittish. And it's sort of like, any old romantic comedy where it's like, hey, I just want to go and, come out of my shell and meet the guy or girl of my dreams. And it doesn't quite go as planned because instead she meets a vampire, a horrible, perverted, old man, serial-killing vampire who preys on young girls like her and then manipulates them and takes advantage of them with his vampire powers. And he takes her and he turns her into a vampire like him. No, I didn't say hey Siri, play cancer. What? Turns her into a vampire like him, and tries to make her his partner, but she escapes and manages to get back to her geeky friends, lost and confused and doesn't know what to do. Her friends try to help her the best they know how, which of course involves doing lots of research with watching old movies and TV shows and trying to do tests on her to figure out what her limits are and what her weaknesses are. They learn that she's can't go into direct sunlight, but she can hold an umbrella and be pretty safe. And so taking all the knowledge they've learned, they decide that they can maybe help her reintegrate herself back into her life and back into going back to school. They think they know what it takes. And so wonderful. Alright, sorry, somebody was messaging me. Alright, so we are about to start chapter 6. About the Kiss, or the Vampire Stuff, is the name of the chapter. Here, let me just beat this. Oh, that's pretty shitty. Sucks for that person. Alright, so, chapter 6, About the Kiss, or the Vampire Stuff. Rachel met Ian at the door that morning before he'd had a chance to knock. She had heard him coming from third line, and would have met him there, had she not been in the middle of defeating her brother in Street Fighter. Jacob hated playing her in fighting games because all his hours spent learning the special moves would be no match for her amazing button-mashing skills. She'd of course been ready to leave for hours. She'd taken her shower really early that morning, long before anyone had woken. She then went downstairs and made it seem as if she'd cooked and ate something. Even though her mom didn't seem to care, she wanted to keep up appearances. "So how did it go last night?" Ian asked her. She pushed him back, away from the door, as she squeezed out. She was careful not to open the door too far, so that Ian might see or in any way try to interact with her mother. She didn't think anything bad might happen. At least he didn't guarantee that being the result. But she really had no idea what could happen, and she certainly wasn't about to risk it. "Did your parents take it okay?" Ian fished for a response. They were fine, Rachel said dismissively as she opened her umbrella. She promised herself she wouldn't feel embarrassed, but it was already too late. She felt weird. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, and she was opening an umbrella. She also looked dressed for winter. She couldn't trust being completely safe under the umbrella, which meant pants were a necessity. She wore a white sleeveless shirt, but with unconnected black sleeves that reached all the way up her arm to just before her shoulder, and a black vest over top that. You sure you're ready for this? Ian asked her. His eyes seemed to be watching her closely, as if waiting for her to somehow show weakness. It was no use, as she didn't think she could be any more ready. Without another word, Rachel stepped into the early morning sunlight, her umbrella held low to shield her face from the sun. She could feel a smile spread across her face, and she figured it likely matched the one Ian was wearing proudly. They were actually going to do it. She was actually going to get away with being a 16-year-old suburban vampire. Did you eat? Ian asked as he joined her in the sun. Yeah, she said. She'd gone hunting for a bird around 4 that morning, just before her shower, in fact. The one thing might have indirectly or directly led to the other. She remembered how Ian had said he'd cried upon first killing the squirrel for her. She had now killed 2 living things so that she could live, not counting Steve's girlfriend, whose eyes still haunted her. She'd drawn at least 10 pages in her sketchbook of nothing else. And much like Steve's girlfriend, they were all traumatic experiences that weighed on Rachel even then. On the bright side, she felt full, so full that she hoped she wouldn't need to feed again until tomorrow. She'd have the blood from the slaughterhouse by then. They met Andrew, Jason, and Bilal at the stop sign, same as usual. By the time they got to the school, everyone, it seemed, but Rachel was covered in sweat. Rachel had heard on the radio that morning that it was going to be a record high that day, and she wished for once that she could feel it. She liked the warm, but, as a vampire, she still felt cold to the touch. She didn't expect that would ever change, unless she wanted to burn under direct sunlight. You know, said Jason as they neared the front doors of the school, Jim could be a problem. Everyone threw Jason a peculiar look. He never complained about Jim before. Don't any of you listen? He continued. Mr. Cardinale said we'd be playing soccer today. Sorry. Don't you mean football? Bilal said in a horrible attempt at a British accent. Well, that was a very horrible attempt then. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I didn't mean that, Jason said to his Muslim friend. But listen, he wants us playing outside on the field. Will Rachel be playing with her umbrella this morning, or are we serving her extra crispy for lunch? She might seem a little weird running around the field with an umbrella, Ian admitted. A little, Rachel repeated. Andrew stroked his chin. Rachel had noticed him do that a lot, and wondered if he actually thought it helped him think. She could pretend to break her leg, he suggested at last. We could actually break her leg, Jason countered. It is considered good luck in some cultures, said Bilal. Yeah? Ian asked. Name one. There was a moment of silence. Drama? Bilal suggested at last. Ian seemed lost for words and ready to inflict pain on Bilal as they came through the front doors to the front hall, but he was saved by Tanya, who... How does that my dishwasher finish beeping? That's my dishwasher, not on your end, in case you were scared. What's that beeping? Oh my god, it's a bomb. It's not a bomb. Alright, Ian seemed lost for words, ready to inflict pain on Bilal that was worth reading twice, as they came through the doors into the front hall, but he was saved by Tanya, who was jogging past on her way to the office. She was wearing a faded black leather jacket over her gym clothes, but still looked cold, suggesting that the school had turned their air conditioning to max. Rachel couldn't even feel the change in temperatures. All she felt was cold, much colder than Tanya looked. Tanya noticed Rachel and stopped dead in her tracks just in time to not jog nose first into a cement column. Stepping away from the column, she pointed at Rachel but didn't say anything as she caught her breath. Rachel closed her umbrella and waited. Finally Tanya spoke. Rachel, she said. Oh my god, we need to talk. She seemed about to continue when the vice principal, a very stern, motherly woman in her 40s, stepped from the office and yelled across the hall. "Tanya!" she yelled. "I need you to come over. I need you to check over the announcements before they can be read aloud. There's only 5 more minutes before—" Tanya cut her off. "I know what time it is," she yelled back. Turning to Rachel, she shrugged. "I have important stupid stuff to do, but we should talk later. Okay?" Tanya gave her one last smile and jogged across the hall. "Is she gone yet?" Andrew asked from behind Jason. He was hiding with a comic book covering his face. "Yeah, she's gone," Bilal told him. Andrew didn't get along too well with the vice principal. Everyone had to admit it was true. Either she really hated him, or he just had the worst luck ever. Every time he and she met, it just always ended badly for him. One time, Rachel saw him go into the office to return a stapler and come out with a detention, and that had happened more than once. In fact, during Bilal's campaign last year, Andrew went into the office looking for tape, and the vice principal caught sight of Bilal's posters. Not only did she, of course, suspend Andrew on account of the posters being inappropriate for school, even though he didn't even make them, but she ruined it for everyone else by ending the campaign period early and forcing a vote. The rest of the school never forgave Andrew, Tanya included, even though she won. They made their way into the gym. Have you thought up a better excuse yet?" Ian asked Andrew as the rest made their way into the boys' change room. "I'll be fine," Rachel told him. They got to the girls' change room and Ian stopped. "See ya," Rachel said awkwardly, as Ian seemed unsure what to do. "Right," he said, turning and making for the other door. Rachel was starting to wonder if maybe Ian was acting different around her. Was it because she was a vampire now? Was he afraid of her? Unsurprisingly, Daisha was already in the change room when Rachel came in. Worse still, they were alone. "Oh my God, rumor has it you ran away from home this weekend," Daisha said, hanging her skirt on the provided hooks. She was already in her gym uniform. "Not exactly," Rachel said. She didn't want to talk about it anymore, least of all with Daisha. "What happened?" Daisha asked. "Did your parents realize how much of a loser you are?" "Ouch," Rachel said sarcastically. She tried to push past Daisha, but the bully cut her off with one arm. Of course, that arm was no real threat to the vampire, but Rachel played her part. "Why'd you come back?" Daisha continued in her bitchy voice. "Couldn't live without your mommy for a whole weekend?" Daisha's face was inches away from her own, and were this a normal day at school, Rachel would have been cowering by now. There was just something about knowing you could easily hurt someone, however, that made their angry words less hurtful. "Like you could," Rachel said, holding her ground. "I did," Daisha said with a laugh. "Took a trip across Canada with my boyfriend. We were on our own for like a month." "A month?" Rachel asked. "Oh, like a month?" Rachel asked. "Or a month?" 27 days, Daisha clarified with a roll of her eyes. "And we did it in every province." Rachel wanted to throw up. But could she? Sorry, let me read that again. Rachel wanted to throw up, but could see she was starting to annoy Daisha, and figured that could be a good sign. Maybe if Daisha got annoyed enough, she'd leave Rachel alone. "What's with the umbrella?" asked Daisha. "Thought it might rain," said Rachel quickly without skipping a beat. "What is that?" Daisha said, pulling on the umbrella to see more of the design. "Some stupid video game? That's really lame." "Aw, you're a poet and you didn't know it. Why do you suddenly care so much about me?" Rachel asked. "Why care at all?" "I saw you," Daisha said, finally coming to what Rachel imagined must be the point. "Friday night? With Tanya? And I heard she was hanging with your dweeb friends on Saturday. I want to know what's going on between you two." There was a chime signaling the start of O Canada, but it was clear from Daisha's expression that she wasn't interested in standing at attention. "I don't know," Rachel answered honestly. Deciding her answer wasn't good enough, she added, "Maybe they were working on a project?" "After the first week of school?" Daisha said. "Right." Daisha pushed Rachel Or, more correctly, Rachel allowed herself to be pushed, and she stumbled backwards through the door and into the gymnasium. "Ladies and gentlemen," Mr. Carnally said angrily, "attention, please." They both froze and let the anthem finish. Daisha gave Rachel a dirty look, but they separated and joined their respective friends. "More trouble with Daisha?" Ian asked Rachel. Rachel just shrugged and sat down. She could tell that Carnally was watching her and she didn't want to get caught talking. The announcements droned on, including one for yearbook club. There was a meeting after school. Rachel knew she had more important things to worry about than yearbook club, but at the same time she'd rather spend the evening at yearbook club than at home with her hostile mother. "I think we need another code level," Andrew told him quietly. Has anyone ever told you your code levels are stupid?" Jason whispered. Andrew shook his head. "They're also important. I think we need a code black." "What's a code black?" Ian asked unenthusiastically, trying not to move his lips. "A mystical event," Andrew explained. "Pretty much anything that pertains to or requires Rachel." So Rachel had her own code now. "Great," she said aloud. "Rachel!" Carnally yelled across the gym as the announcements came to an end. Rachel didn't know what to do, and everyone turned to stare at her. She stood up. "Come down here!" Carnally yelled at her. She complied, making her way slowly down the stands. Carnally crossed his arms. "Why aren't you in uniform, girl? Think you're more special than the others, do ya?" "No, sir," she said quietly. Rachel noticed Tanya enter the gym and immediately looked concerned. Tanya took a seat at the front of the class and watched. "What was that?" Mr. Carnally yelled in her ear. I feel sick," she said, more than loudly enough for him to hear. I think I'm starting my period." It was a lie. In fact, Rachel wasn't even sure she'd ever have her period again. She also wasn't sure how that made her feel, but she really didn't want to start thinking about any of that yet. Mr. Carnally's face crumpled in disgust. "Don't tell me those things," he insisted quietly. "In fact, from now on, if any of you have to be excused for anything to do with that woman stuff, I'd like you to just stand up and cough. I'll know where you're going. Well, I won't, but that's the point." Tanya immediately stood up and gave a very fake-sounding cough. Mr. Carnally looked at her in surprise and disbelief. "Oh," he said sarcastically, "I suppose you're going to tell me your periods are synced." "Actually," Kyle Blunt said from the middle of the class, while awkwardly raising his hand, "that has been known to happen between good friends." Rachel thought she saw Daisha react, but it was only for a second. Mr. Carnally made another face. "Kyle, 10 laps. Ugh, gross. The rest of you, let's go play soccer." Their gym teacher didn't need to finish his sentence before Rachel was out the gym doors and moving down the hall. She didn't want to be reminded of all the things she couldn't do now as a vampire. She just wanted to feel normal again. Excuse me. "Hey," called Tanya from the gym doors. "Wait up." Rachel, I love how she sounds like a transvestite. Sorry. Alright, Rachel felt she had no choice but to stop and let Tanya catch up. "What happened this weekend?" "I don't really want to talk about it," Rachel admitted truthfully. Tanya pulled Rachel into a hug. "I was worried about you," the school president told her quietly. "Thanks," Rachel said. She didn't want to revisit her weekend, and she appreciated that Tanya didn't push. It still bothered her that she couldn't be outside playing soccer. It bothered her that she wasn't normal anymore. Or maybe she never was. She just wanted to have fun like everyone else in her class. Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. Andrew didn't want to be in gym class. If he could, he'd be at home preparing for the tournament that was fast approaching. Even if he did skip school, it's not like Bilal and his sister would skip too, and practicing without the team was fairly useless. But trying to play soccer was all but useless too. It was just too damn hot. After kicking around the ball for a few minutes, everyone was simply too tired to play a game. Andrew's gym shirt was so sweaty it looked like he'd just fallen in a pool. Can't we just go inside and do some push-ups for the rest of the period? Andrew suggested to Mr. Carnally from the sidelines as he took a much-needed moment's rest. Carnally flinched slightly at Andrew's use of the word period. Alice came to join them, but simply stood silently beside. When Mr. Carnally finally turned to give her his attention, she simply coughed. Carnally winced again, as if the cough physically hurt, and just waved her away. "Take me with you," Andrew called after her. She threw him the finger, but her gesture didn't hurt nearly as much as Mr. Carnally's next words. "You're up, Grezzy." Back on the field, Andrew took a place on the defense with Mike Johns, but just collapsed in the grass. "Why do girls hate me?" Andrew asked Mike. Mike shrugged and sat down beside him. Girls... Well, that's too much of Jason's voice. Damn it, they do have similar voices. Oh well. Girls are easy," Mike said to him. "Why don't you meet me at my locker at the beginning of lunch?" "Why?" Andrew asked. The ball slowly rolled past him, coming within centimeters. Andrew reached out to grab the ball with his hands, but couldn't quite reach. Giving up, he watched Danny run past him and take the ball to the net. "What are you going to do?" Andrew continued, turning his attention back to Mike. Danny scored no problem, and then proceeded to tell Andrew to suck it, but Andrew didn't really care. He was much more interested in what Mike had to say. "It's a surprise," Mike told him, "but you should like it." True as that might have been, Andrew was pretty sure he'd rather be at home playing video games. There was a call from the sidelines, and Andrew turned just in time to see Daisha and 4 of the girls reach the limits of their patience. Soon there would only be guys left, and as far as Andrew could tell, that suited Mr. Carnally just fine. Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. Alright, Rachel and Tanya decided to get something to eat from the cafeteria to wait out the first period until drama. Well, in all honesty, it was Tanya's idea, as Rachel wasn't hungry for anything the cafeteria had for sale. Tanya bought a chocolate chip muffin and chose a seat by the window. The cafeteria eating area was entirely bathed in sunlight streaming through large windows that made up an entire wall. Rachel stopped just outside the sunlight, and Tanya turned in surprise. "Is everything okay?" Tanya asked as Rachel readied her umbrella. "Yeah," Rachel said awkwardly, unsure how to explain herself. She pushed the button quite deliberately, and the umbrella unfolded before their eyes. "That's like 10 years bad luck," Tanya told Rachel. Tanya's eyes searched Rachel's questioningly. It seemed as if she was trying to decide whether or not she had just seen Rachel deliberately open an umbrella inside for no reason at all. "Oops," Rachel said far too late as she joined Tanya at the table. You've started a revolution," Alice told Rachel as she joined them in the cafeteria. I was like, should I go with the mouse voice? No, maybe just not go with the mouse voice. She changed out of her gym uniform and was now wearing tight jeans with a white top. The white only accentuated the vibrant red of her hair and the deep blue of her eyes that looked at Rachel then in a way Alice had never looked at her before. Alice was looking at her like a friend. Was it because of Tanya? "What revolution?" Tanya asked when Rachel didn't. All the girls are complaining about their periods now," Alice explained. "You've found our perfect weapon against Mr. Carnally." Rachel didn't know what to say, but smiled despite herself. Maybe today wasn't going to be so bad after all. "I like your top, by the way," Tanya told Alice. "I know," Alice said, her voice rising with excitement. Back on the mouse voice, I guess. It rose with excitement. That's what happens. It gets squeaky. "I found it at Costa Blanca. The person there said because of my skin I should wear lighter colors." I know that feeling. I'm very pale. In my black. Anyway, maybe I should try that, Rachel admitted more to herself as she looked at all the black she was wearing. So, me and Rachel, we got a thing. I like your umbrella," Alice admitted to Rachel. "I've never told anyone this before, but I'm a closet gamer." Tanya looked at Alice with surprise and asked, "You play video games?" "Only when I have nothing better to do," Alice explained defensively. Tanya looked about to say something, but she stopped when Daisha walked through the doors with one of her bland friends. Daisha took one look at Rachel sitting with people Daisha had thought were her friends, and her lip curled. "What is she doing here? Bleh." Tanya rolled her eyes. Ugh. Would you leave her alone? She told Daisha. Rachel's cool. Not to? Daisha stopped to snicker at the joke she hadn't given yet. Rain on your parade? But umbrellas are not cool. It's not the 1800s. With that, she left to her own table. Her friend followed her reluctantly like a sad puppy, though she seemed for a moment like she'd rather sit with Tanya. Rachel noticed Alice watching Daisha with what could only be described as hatred in her eyes. I'll be right back, Alice told the other two girls. I want to grab something from my locker. She returned with a small pink umbrella, and again Tanya looked at Alice in surprise. Oh my God, Tanya said. That thing is so adorable. Alice shrugged. I think we should bring them back, Alice told them with the fire still burning in her eyes. Parasols? Asked Tanya. I think we can prove Daisha wrong, Alice told the school president with a mischievous smile. Umbrellas aren't just cool, they'll keep us cool. Rachel turned around in time to see Daisha's sour expression thrown across the cafeteria at them. Alice only smiled and twirled her umbrella. Besides, Alice said, in the sun, I'm going to need all the protection I can get, or I promise you my skin will burn. Thanks for standing up for me, Rachel told Alice honestly. She was surprised at Alice's sudden change of heart. Don't thank me, Alice told her. Just stand with me. Rachel wondered if Alice had perhaps been planning Daisha's downfall for a while now, and had only been waiting for the right moment. Was it Rachel befriending Tanya? Did Alice need to know that Tanya would be on her side against Daisha before she was willing to make her move? Was Rachel getting drawn into all the same drama she used to enjoy laughing at from a distance? Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. Andrew arrived at the correct hallway as lunch was just beginning, and Mike was grabbing books from his locker. The hallways were filled with students moving between periods, putting away their books and grabbing food or games or whatever they needed for the next hour. As Andrew slowed, he was suddenly pushed forward into Mike. He stepped away awkwardly as Danny McGreed passed and laughed. Andrew was starting to get tired of being bullied around all the time. Mike ignored Danny and clapped Andrew hard on the shoulder. You're right on time, Mike told Andrew as he pulled a guitar from his locker and began to play. Swinging around, Mike started towards a dark-haired girl down the hall named Penny. Andrew had never really talked to her, but he knew she hung out with a lot of the wannabe gangsters of the school. As Mike made his way down the hall singing To Be With You by Mr. Big, how does that song go again? It goes like, dun 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 dun. I used to know the lyrics. Anyway. While strumming notes on his guitar, as Mike made his way down the hall singing To Be With You by Mr. Big while strumming notes on his guitar, kids had to dive aside or press themselves against their lockers to get out of his way. Andrew followed him easily, apologizing to everyone he could. Andrew could barely see Penny's face, but he could tell that she wasn't too impressed. Mike stopped in front of Penny's locker so that there could be no doubt that his song was for her. As he finished his final chorus, she rolled her eyes. So, Mike said, rather out of breath, will you go out with me this Friday? Sorry, she said, her first word already telling both Mike and Andrew everything they needed to know. I'm just more of an R&B kind of girl. With that, she turned to her friends, both of whom were giggling in a most annoying fashion. As the three girls left, Mike to his embarrassment, Andrew clapped him on the shoulder. I thought that was sexy, Andrew told him. Mike shot Andrew a high five. Yeah, it was. I high-fived myself. He said. You know how I see it? No clue, dude, Andrew told him. There's only so many girls out there who are willing to put up with each of our individual amounts of bullshit, Mike explained on their way back to his locker. There's no point wasting your time with people who won't. If you do, you might miss your chance at finding the right girl, because you were too caught up in the wrong one, you know? So she wasn't the right one? Andrew asked. Mike shook his head. Nah, he said. I just wanted to date a black chick. I thought you were dating Ashley Calger, Andrew admitted. We broke up last week, Mike told him. Didn't you ask her out last week? They got to his locker and Mike put They got to his locker and Mike put in his combination. The door swung open and the two looked inside with sudden dread. How did you fit your locker in there? Sorry. How did you fit your guitar in there? Andrew asked slowly. Mike shook his head and shrugged. I don't even know. Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. Rachel's day went faster than she expected, and she seemed able to get through all her classes without any trouble. That is, until science class. They all met outside the door just before the bell. The whole gang. Rachel, Ian, Andrew, Bilal, Jason, and Mike were the first ones there. How's it going? Ian asked Rachel. Are you hungry yet? Rachel wished Ian hadn't said anything. She was beginning to feel it, the throbbing in her head, how every sound in the school was just a little bit more distracting than usual. She was trying hard as she could to ignore it, as she had her stubborn mind set on not killing another animal, or any living thing, before Tuesday. I'm fine, she lied and left things at that. Okay, kids, Miss O'Byrne said. Don't worry, I've got the key. He extended his arm past Bilal and opened the door. Andrew snapped his finger. Drats, he said, and I was just about to pick the lock, too. They all shuffled inside, Bilal hitting the switch as he passed. And let there be light, he said as the classroom lit up. That's a rather biblical thing to say, Bilal. Oh no, sorry. That's a rather biblical thing to say, Bilal, Rachel heard Jason say as he followed Bilal into the room. Mr. O'Byrne grabbed Rachel's hand, suddenly stopping her from following her friends. I heard what happened over the weekend, Mr. O'Byrne said with a warm smile. I'm glad you're all right. Yeah, she said. It was nothing. She wondered if he deliberately left the classroom locked so that he might get her alone like this. Though his smile seemed genuine, she could see his eyes searching her, but for what she didn't know. You can always come talk to me, he told her. I want all the students to know I can relate to what you're going through. I only graduated high school 8 years ago. Yeah, man, that's still old, Ian said sarcastically. He'd been listening in from the door. Ancient, Rachel said, trying to force an innocent grin and giggle. Hee hee. Tee-hee. That's funny, Mr. O'Byrne said, crossing his arms in amusement. Nice umbrella, by the way. He gestured to umbrella and said, Did you think it was going to rain? Rachel tried to shrug casually, but worried that she came off as less than insincere. Less than insincere. Pretty silly, right? She asked awkwardly, trying to cover herself. Shouldn't that be less than sincere? Boop, boop. Alright, but worried that she came off as less than sincere. Pretty silly, right? She asked awkwardly, trying to cover herself. Mr. O'Byrne's eyes were still studying her, but he smiled again and outstretched his hand. Good to have you back. She took his hand again, but this time he didn't let go. You're freezing cold, he said with what seemed like honest concern. Are you all right? He raised her sleeve and touched her arm. She pulled her arm away forcefully and shrugged again. The air conditioning here, am I right? She tried to say casually. Did he believe her? What else would he believe? She didn't wait to find out. The bell had just rang and more kids were showing up to class. She went inside and followed Ian to their table. As she sat down, Mr. O'Byrne came in and called her name. Did you manage to finish your homework this weekend? He asked. Rachel nodded. Good, he said. Start a pile here. He gestured to a spot on his desk and began writing something on the board. Rachel got up and placed her paper on his desk, as everyone else at her table got up to join her. On their way back, Andrew went to sit down as Danny McReed was squeezing past. With a grin, Danny pulled Andrew's chair out from under him, causing Andrew to fall ass first to the floor. "Hey, that's my chair!" Andrew yelled angrily. Danny just laughed, and his stupid goth friends laughed with him. Rachel hated the whole group of them, but especially Danny, and those ugly ear spacers. If she hadn't been so hungry, she might not have reacted the way she did, but she wasn't thinking with a level head, and Danny just made her so mad. She stepped in front of Andrew and grabbed a leg of the chair. Give Andrew back her chair. Give Andrew his chair back. Yes, I'm a girl now. Give Andrew his chair back, she said. She pulled hard, and the chair easily came loose from his grip. Danny raised his arms in defeat and backed away, but he had a strange look on his face. It took a moment, but Rachel realized she didn't recognize his expression because it was something other than mean. As Danny looked back to Andrew, the mean returned, and he was the same old Danny, only turning around and walking away. Rachel dropped the chair by the table. Thanks, Andrew told her. Rachel noticed Mr. O'Byrne watching her again, and wondered if he'd been watching the whole thing. Seemed extra weird, considering Tanya was trying extra hard to flirt with him over last weekend's homework. Maybe you should sit on the other side against the wall, Rachel suggested to Andrew, taking his seat at the table. She wanted his spot so that she'd have her back to O'Byrne. Andrew went around the table and slumped between Ian and Mike. Why do they always pick on me? He asked with a sigh. Bilal shrugged from across the table. Maybe it's your glasses, he suggested. You should just get contacts, Mike told him. Andrew took off his glasses and looked around the table. Do I look any cooler? He asked. You're a beautiful man, Mike said jokingly. For the record, Rachel was pretty sure neither Mike nor Andrew were actually gay. Reasonably certain. Andrew pocketed his glasses and looked around blindly. I'm totally gonna say, that's not gonna work. I'm totally gonna stay like this for the rest of the period. I was actually trying to take off my glasses there. He told them. See if my luck improves. Mr. O'Byrne cleared his throat in a comically obnoxious way and said, Well, I'll be beginning class today by copying down these questions from the board. Damn it! And Andrew said, Okay, let me start that again. Mr. O'Byrne cleared his throat in a comically obnoxious way and said, We'll be beginning class today by copying down these questions from the board. Damn it! Andrew said to himself, reluctantly pulling his glasses from his pocket as everyone else bent over their binders. Rachel smelled something, and it immediately caught her attention. Her survival instincts kicked in. Sir, she said, raising her arm slowly, I think I smell glass. I think I smell gas. Mr. O'Byrne looked over to the lab side of the room, made his way to one of the gas nozzles, and gripped it with his hand. One of the faucets wasn't quite tight enough, he reported to the class as they returned to the board. I'm amazed you smelled that, Rachel. I think you just saved our lives. Rachel watched him as his eyes swept across the classroom. Can everyone read the board all right? He asked. Do we need some natural light? He pointed to Rachel and smiled. Can you open the blinds for me, superhero? Rachel's heart skipped a beat. Did he know? She tried to share a glance with Ian, but he wasn't looking. None of them had noticed, but her. What? She asked Mr. O'Byrne, who, while also kicking Ian hard in the shin. I just wanted you to help shed some light in this classroom, he explained with a smile. Do you mind? Ian looked up. I'll do it, he told Mr. O'Byrne. O'Byrne smiled. Nonsense, he said. You're against the wall. There's no sense causing such a commotion. It would be much easier for Rachel. He stared over his glasses at her, as if watching her closely. That won't be a problem, will it, Rachel? Why would it be a problem? Rachel asked quietly. Exactly, he said with another warm smile. Actually, Ian said without missing a beat, I was at the beach all day yesterday and the sun has been hurting my skin today. He shrunk away from O'Byrne's gaze, but continued to mutter, Not really a burn, but like pre-burn? I think that's a thing. I've got a pre-burn. Mr. O'Byrne crossed his arms, but this time it wasn't from amusement. You went to the beach, Mr. Fletcher, he asked in disbelief. Rachel had to admit it was pretty hard to believe. So, should I open them, sir? She asked. He seemed to think for a bit, then sighed. No, leave them closed, he decided after a moment. He didn't bother her again until class was over, but she got up quickly and tried to be the first one out the door. But Mr. O'Byrne loudly called her name from his desk. I need to talk to you about your homework, Rachel, he told her. They waited while everyone left the room, and he announced to her that he'd be waiting outside. Once it was just Rachel and O'Byrne, Rachel turned to him. You don't want to talk about homework, do you? She asked. His heart was beating faster than anyone's in the school. You were bit by a vampire this weekend, Mr. O'Byrne said. It wasn't a question. Are you going to hurt me? Rachel asked. Are you afraid of me? Mr. O'Byrne asked with what seemed like slight surprise. Rachel shook her head. I'm afraid of myself. Let's just say I don't understand your motives, Mr. O'Byrne said. Why would you come back here? Rachel wasn't quite sure herself. This is all I know, she said at last. She didn't want to talk to O'Byrne anymore, didn't want to remember anymore. She left him without even asking if she could. He called to her when she reached the door and she stopped. If even one person ends up going missing, I'll kill you, he told her. If I kill even one person, she told Mr. O'Byrne, only just loud enough so he could hear and Ian on the other side of the door could not, I'll lit you. Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. When Rachel told Andrew, Ian, Bilal, and Jason about Mr. O'Byrne knowing she was a vampire, Andrew was disappointed she hadn't gotten more information. You think he might be some intense vampire hunter or something? Andrew asked Bilal over his Xbox headset later that afternoon. Like, maybe he's Alaric from Vampire Diaries. Vampire Diaries? Bilal asked loudly. I don't watch Vampire Diaries. Who watches Vampire Diaries? Andrew had only just gotten home from school, and he'd immediately powered on his Xbox. He was looking to get some more practice in the game before the tournament tomorrow. He also still had to find a fourth member. Bilal had joined him shortly after. My guest says you need to be more mainstream with your pop culture references. Your guest? Andrew asked. You mean your sister? She shows up as guest on my Xbox, Bilal explained, so that's what I'll call her. I don't want everyone online to know I have a sister. Why? Andrew asked. Because that'll be exactly the information they'll need to hunt you down and kill you? There was some indiscernible noise in the background on Bilal's end, and Bilal said loudly, My guest doesn't like it either. There was a pause. Well, that's just too bad, guest. You're the guest now. Well, can you tell your guest to stop shooting at me? Andrew asked Bilal, dodging behind a rock in the game as Bilal's sister began taking advantage of friendly fire. She says she doesn't trust you, Bilal explained. Trust goes both ways, Andrew said, trying to keep his character's head down. She kept circling the rock, trying to get to him, and all Andrew could do was keep the rock between them. If he killed her, he'd lose 100 points. There was an explosion, and Bilal's sister exploded in a large rocket-powered boom. A loud scream shot through Andrew's headset and pierced his very soul like a dagger. Thank God, Andrew said, happy the other team had killed Bilal's sister before she killed him. Dude, your sister can really scream. Actually, that was me. I forgot to do the loud scream. Ah! Well, that was maybe too loud. Anyway, Actually, that was me, Bilal said quietly. Bilal joined Angie behind the rock. Neither of them were quite sure where the rocket had been launched from. They couldn't see anything. Now it would be 2 against 4. A random person joined the game on their side. Someone named Darkblade. Did you see that? Andrew asked Bilal. Yeah, Bilal said. Probably a no-micer. Hey, Darkblade. Andrew called through his headset. Do you have a mic? Oh, yeah, said a deep voice in his ear. Yes. Andrew sat up on his bed, suddenly a lot more interested. Darkblade was the first normal-sounding person they'd found all week. Have you spawned yet? No, he said. When you first joined games, it often took at least 10 seconds to spawn. Quickly, man, Bilal exclaimed through his headset. Ghost cam their locations, while you still can. Ghost cam was a special view you were given before you were put into the game. While in Ghost cam, you could soar around the level invisible to all players and scout out enemy locations. "'Kay," Darkblade said slowly. There was a pause and then, "Shit, man. They're all sticking together. Closing in on your position? Damn, I'm in." Andrew noticed Darkblade spawn not too far from where they were holding behind cover. "This spot is too open," Andrew told Bilal, hoping Bilal had an idea. "Let's try to get the grenades," Bilal suggested. The grenades were too far away, and both Bilal and Andrew dived from their cover and ran for the circle of stones around the grenade spawn. Darkblade got there first. "Damn it," Bilal exclaimed. "Why is it everyone who joins our games always goes for my grenades?" "Sorry," Darkblade said. "I didn't know they were yours." There was another explosion and Bilal was blown up just like his sister. His voice screamed out on the headset while Andrew and Darkblade scurried for cover. Andrew hit a stone slab hard as bullets filled the air around them. "The rocket launcher is out!" Andrew yelled to Darkblade. After all, the launcher only came with 2 shots. Darkblade peered over his piece of cover and tried shooting down an enemy, but all 4 of the other team focused their fire on him. He had to crouch to heal. 2 of the enemies switched to shotgun, and Andrew did the same. The 2 split up, one going for Andrew and the other going for Darkblade. Andrew shot at his guy, but the man dodged and came up behind him. Andrew knew that he was in trouble, as did Darkblade. Darkblade threw one of his 2 grenades past Andrew. Without even looking, Andrew dived for cover as he heard the grenade go off, killing the player he'd been fighting. Darkblade didn't have it so lucky, as a notification appeared on Andrew's screen telling him Darkblade was down. "No!" Andrew exclaimed. "Don't die on me, Darkblade. You saved my life. Now I'm going to save yours." "It's too late, man. Too late for me," Darkblade said, pretending emotions as Andrew heard his familiar click. "Save yourself." Darkblade exploded along with his second grenade, and the explosion killed not just him, but the other 3 players as well, all getting in close for an execution. "Whoa!" Whoa! Andrew heard Bilal say through his headset. "He is the Messiah!" Andrew couldn't help but grin. Not that it mattered. No one could see his face. "He's so in." "In what?" Darkblade asked. "With his powers?" Bilal said. "We should have no problem winning the tournament tomorrow." "I'm not interested in joining a clan," Darkblade told them. "Look, I don't even know you guys. I'm not just going to play with you in some tournament." Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. Rachel went to the yearbook meeting after school despite Ian's persistence. "You don't need to go," Ian had told her, obviously worried for her, but she'd already made up her mind and she wanted to take part in the yearbook again. Just because she was a vampire didn't mean she couldn't do normal things like yearbook club. "Is this about your parents?" he asked. "I know you're fighting with your mom, and if you really want things to go back to normal, you need to talk to her and find a way to reconcile." "How do you know about my mom?" Rachel asked. He was absolutely right. She didn't want to go home because she knew her mother would be there, and Rachel just couldn't face her mother right now. "Jacob told me," Ian told Rachel. "Are you still paying him to spy for you?" Rachel asked. "Are you spying on me with my brother?" "That's not," Ian started to say, but Rachel didn't want to hear it. Leave my brother alone, she told him, suddenly feeling an urge to hurt someone. She stepped into the classroom and closed the door behind her as Ian tried to follow. The yearbook meeting was being held in an empty classroom after school. Alice was the head of the yearbook committee, even though Tanya was a member. It was Tanya's way of sharing school power with her friends. We've got a lot of new content for the gossip column, Alice was saying as Rachel came in, especially like what our photography crew collected in our first week of school. Since when did it become our job to spy on everyone? Rachel asked Alice as she sat down at a table by herself. People don't want us to put in their yearbooks things that went on that they want People don't want us to put in their yearbooks things that they want kept private. At another table, where a group of girls were whispering fanatically, Tanya stood up. I agree, Tanya said. The yearbook should have nothing but the most positive messages that every student in school can appreciate. Tanya crossed the classroom and sat down across from Rachel, throwing her a smile. No more bullying in our yearbooks. Alice wasn't smiling as wildly. The gossip section is our most notable feature, she told them. Rachel could tell Alice was afraid to oppose Tanya on anything. Shouldn't we be notable for something we can take pride in? Rachel asked out of the corner of her eye and saw Tanya throw her another smile. Besides, Tanya said, who wants to read semester 1 gossip in second semester? It's all old news by the time we're released. Fine, Alice said abruptly. I'll need the two of you to design an alternate layout. She took a deep breath before continuing. If you can convince me it's better without the gossip section, then we'll do it. Alice handed Tanya some Bristol board, and Tanya punched Alice playfully in the shoulder. Good plan, Tanya told Alice. Alice smiled, though seemed to be trying hard not to look too pleased. Thanks, she said awkwardly. Rachel was going to say something to Alice as well. After all, they did seem to be growing into fast friends, but Rachel was interrupted by a chime on the PA system. Rachel Lin Smith, to the principal's office. Oh, male voice. Rachel Lin Smith, to the principal's office. A male's voice spoke almost incoherently through the speaker. Rachel Lin Smith, to the principal's office, thank you. He sounded almost like a grocery employee calling a cleanup in aisle 12. Rachel noticed Tanya glance at the time. I thought all the secretaries would be gone by now, Tanya told her. He didn't sound much like a secretary, Rachel reasoned. Could have been anyone. Might even have been the principal, though she didn't think so. Then again, people never did sound like themselves over the PA system. You should probably head down there, Rachel suggested finally. I should probably head down there, Rachel suggested finally. I'll come with you, Tanya said. At a look from Rachel, she added, I need some tape for the layout. All right, Rachel said, getting up from the table. She was out the door before Tanya even got out of the box. But Tanya caught up before Rachel made it to the stairs. They've waited all day, Tanya said as they descended the steps. I want to know what really happened to you. What the guys at the bar were saying was far worse than any possible truth. Did I say they've waited all day? I mean, I've waited all day. Is that what I said? Oh, whatever. What did they say? Rachel asked. You know what? Water break. Maybe that'll make me feel better. Water break. Do. Water break. I've waited all day, Tanya said as they descended the steps. I want to know what really happened to you. What the guys at the bars were saying was far worse than any possible truth. What did they say? Rachel asked. They talked about the guy you left with, Tanya said. She didn't go on, but Rachel could guess how that story ended. And she didn't want to hear any more. I don't remember much from that night, she admitted honestly. Tanya obviously wanted more, but they were already at the office. All the lights were off and the blinds were closed, giving the office an eerie blue glow. Rachel opened the doors for Tanya and pointed to the secretary's desk by a window. You should be able to find tape there, she said. I know, Tanya told her, disappointment still evident in her voice. Of course, Tanya probably borrowed supplies from the office all the time as the school president. As Tanya began to snoop in some drawers, Rachel made her way to the principal's office in the back. The light was on, signifying that someone was there. Rachel had been hoping she'd heard wrong or something. Why would the principal want to see her? Was she in danger? Did he know? Mr. Henderson? She asked, calling out his name as she stepped into the office. He was turned away from her, hidden from view by the tall back of his chair. Where am I? Did you call for me? You're in trouble, a familiar deep voice said. It wasn't a deep enough voice to be her principal's, but she knew exactly who it was. Steve turned in the chair, an old-looking crossbow at the ready in his hands, chainmail armor over his hoodie. She had thought him dead after Eckhart threw him out of his apartment window, though now she was putting thought in it. My God, am I tired? Sorry. She had thought him dead after Eckhart threw him out of his apartment. Though now she was putting thought in it, she realized that he'd only lived on the second floor. It wouldn't be all that uncommon to survive a fall from only 2 stories. Why hadn't she considered that before? And how did he find her? Was it the posters that were left all around town? He must have known all about her family. All about her from her... he must have known... And how did he find her? Was it the posters that were left all around town? He must have known all about her from her friends trying to find her. So he hunted her down to her school. What now? Did he want revenge? I'm sorry, she told him. About your girlfriend? I wish there was some way I could have stopped him. He seemed to study her for a moment, but the grip on his crossbow tightened. No, he said to her. You're not sorry, but you will be. He fired the crossbow, and before Rachel could even react, she had a wooden arrow through her shoulder. She screamed, "Ah!" the pain shooting down her side, too much to contain. She tried to move her arm, but it hung limp. Her vision swooned, and Steve grew fuzzy. Damn it, she heard him say. Damn it, she heard him say, trying to get another bolt onto the crossbow. These things aren't as easy to reload as they look on TV. Rachel used her moment to stumble through the door. She made for the office exit, but when she tried to slip there, she was so off balance she collided with the secretary's desk. Are you okay? Tanya asked, coming to Rachel's side. Tanya saw the bolt sticking out from Rachel's shoulder and screamed. Ah! Rachel screamed back. Ah! Run! Rachel managed to say after Tanya had stopped for breath. Just go! I can't leave you, Tanya said, grabbing Rachel's side and leading her to the door. Rachel looked back just in time to see Steve come through the door and tossing the crossbow aside. Rachel breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that she could move faster than him without his ranged weapon. He pulled out a 9mm pistol. Get down! Rachel screamed, grabbing Tanya and slipping to the cover of the secretary's desk. Steve shot his gun, shattering the glass overlooking the front hall. I know these bullets won't kill you, Steve said gleefully, but they'll slow you down for me to finish you off with my sword. Rachel remembered Steve's sword, and in her weakened state she wondered if she could win in such a fight against him. She still couldn't move her arm. She hadn't eaten in far too long, and Tanya was starting to look mighty delicious. What the hell is he talking about? Tanya asked, her eyes wide in shock. She seemed to be freaking out, but really no more than Rachel. I'm a vampire, Rachel told her. Tanya rolled her eyes in disbelief, but Rachel didn't have time for that. When I say run, She continued, "You have to run." Steve turned the corner, bringing his gun to bear on the girls. Tanya screamed incoherently, but Rachel was able to yell over her. "Run!" Rachel said, slipping behind Steve. She grabbed his outstretched arm and snapped it at the elbow. He screamed in pain, almost as loud as she had earlier, and tried to stumble away from her. His gun fell to the floor, but Rachel didn't wait. She slammed her flat palm against his chest, pushing him back across the room and through a window into a flower bed. She easily caught up to Tanya, who was running full speed across the front hall. As Rachel grabbed Tanya's arm, she stumbled as her vision swooned. Tanya's heart was beating loud and fast, pounding against her ribcage. Rachel wanted to reach into the school president's chest and drink. Just drink. Shit, sorry. See, this is what happens when I get tired. I close my eyes for a sec and pass out. Alright. Where was I? Right when things are crazy, too. Her vision spinning, Tanya's heart was beating loud and fast, pounding against her ribcage. Rachel wanted to reach into the school president's chest and drink. Just drink. Sorry, I'm just overworked, that's why. Jesus Christ, this is why I stopped my last podcast, was because I kept falling asleep while I was trying to record. Alright, in here, Tanya said, leading Rachel into a room. Rachel tried to focus on Tanya's words and where she was being led. Her arm and head were both throbbing so heavily it was overwhelming her. "Is she following us?" she asked quietly. "Is he following us?" she asked quietly. Tanya shook her head, her veins pulsing distractedly on her neck. "We're in the woman's bathroom," she told Rachel reassuringly. Rachel couldn't help but giggle despite, or perhaps in spite of the pain. "I don't think he's the kind of guy to uphold social rules like that," Rachel said through gritted teeth. "I killed his girlfriend." Tanya seemed to stop dead in her tracks. "Should I be afraid of you?" she asked Rachel. Rachel wasn't sure how to answer that. "Yes?" she said at last. Tanya shook her head, smiling and touching Rachel's shoulder. "I can't be afraid of you," she said warmly. "You're just so adorable." Rachel didn't know what to say, but she was glad Tanya wasn't leaving. "I need you to pull out the bolt. I need you to pull the bolt out," Rachel told Tanya. Tanya's eyes widened. "Are you insane?" she said. "Why can't you do it?" "I'm scared," Rachel answered honestly. Her legs felt weak, and she could barely stand. Her arm kept throbbing harder and harder, and she wondered if the bolt might have been poisoned. Or was wood just poison to vampires? "Please," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm begging you." Rachel ripped her shirt open so that they could both see the wound more clearly. It was just above her breast, and she was losing a lot of blood. Tanya looked at the wound with her eyes wide. Something was holding her back. "Did you really kill his girlfriend?" she asked Rachel. Rachel shook her head. "I fed on her," she said, "but the woman was already dead." Rachel felt as guilty as if she had killed Steve's girlfriend. She thought she could escape what had happened that weekend, but it didn't take even a day for her nightmares to find her again. She could feel tears building and tried to hide her face from Tanya, but Tanya touched her cheek sympathetically. "I think my life might already be over," Rachel told her honestly. "I'm just trying to hold on, but it's impossible, and my former life is just slipping away from me like sand through my fingers. I feel like I'm going to crack or explode, and if..." Rachel would have continued with a rant. In fact, she had enough material to go on for hours, but Tanya stopped her. Tanya did more than just stop her. She leaned forward and gently kissed Rachel's bottom lip. Rachel was surprised to find she was kissing Tanya back, and the sounds of the school all faded away as Rachel listened to the drumbeat quietly radiating through Tanya's body. Rachel felt like she could focus on Tanya and her internal drumbeat, and it made the throbbing in both Rachel's head and her arms subside. Tanya pulled away suddenly, but Rachel wanted more. Didn't she want more? Rachel wasn't even sure what she wanted, but she knew Tanya was watching her, and Tanya's hand was on the bolt. Tanya pulled the bolt out, while Rachel was still frozen in surprise. The pain was worse than Rachel had been expecting, and she cried out, "Ah!" her knees giving out on her as she fell back into a stall. Tanya dropped on top of her and kissed her again. Tanya's heart was beating fast, but with arousal now, not fear. Rachel could feel her fangs stretching out from her gums. They hungered for Tanya in a way no one but a vampire would understand. Rachel pulled away from Tanya's lips and tried focusing on her pain. Clutching Tanya's shirt tightly, Rachel cried silently into her sleeve. When they finally released, Tanya looked at Rachel's shoulder and frowned. "It's still bleeding," she said. "I think you need to go to a hospital." "I'll be fine once I feed," Rachel said, trying to cover herself with a ripped shirt. "We need to get my jacket from my locker," she said at last. "Here," Tanya said. "Wear mine." Tanya pulled off her black jacket and wrapped it around Rachel's shoulders. The leather rubbed irritably against her shoulder, but the throbbing pain was helping distract her from her hunger. "It's going to be covered in blood," Rachel admitted with guilt. "Don't worry about it," Tanya said back. "My parents can afford more." Rachel didn't know anything about Tanya's parents or what they did, but right then didn't seem the right time to ask. Besides, Tanya had more questions of her own. "When you said you needed to feed..." Rachel didn't let her finish. "I'm getting animal blood tomorrow," she said. "A lot of it, from a nearby farm. I just need to hold out till then. I don't think this wound is going to heal till then, so I'm going to have to hide it." "How did this happen?" Tanya asked, clutching Rachel tightly against her again. "How did this happen?" Tanya asked, more emotionally this time, clutching Rachel tightly against her again. "It was that guy," Rachel told her, "the one I left the bar with that night." "Friday night?" Tanya asked, covering her mouth with her hand in shock. "And you didn't think that was worth telling me?" I didn't know how to react," Rachel said quietly, looking to the floor. Tanya seemed at a loss for words. "Wow," she said at last. "So you're a vampire." Rachel didn't want to go back to the yearbook club, but she figured since Steve hadn't shown up to try to kill them yet, he'd probably retreated for now and it was safe for them to step out. More water. Water break. Spread some on my face. That'll wake me up. Alright. A water break. Done the water break. "I need to grab my bag and umbrella from the meeting," Rachel told Tanya. Tanya clapped her hand against her mouth again. "The umbrella!" she said as if a light bulb was going off in her head. "It all makes sense now." Running her hands under water from the sink, Rachel tried to rub some of the blood from her face and neck so that she might be seen in the halls without encouraging any questions. "You can't tell anyone," Rachel told the school president. "About kissing the vampire? About the kiss or the vampire stuff?" Tanya asked Rachel. Rachel looked at her in surprise again. She didn't know what to think of the kiss. "Why did you kiss me?" she asked. "I don't know," Tanya said with a slow shrug. Rachel was worried that being a vampire might have given her a sort of aura that attracted humans to her, like bug pheromones. She'd been noticing Ian wanting to be closer to her as well, and now this with Tanya? It wasn't much of a leap, as Eckhart had a mysterious power over her when she was human. "I don't think I'm a lesbian," Tanya said. "Me neither," Rachel admitted. She had liked the kiss, though. What did that mean? "But thank you? Thank God for you." "For what?" Tanya asked. "For everything," Rachel told her. "For not asking if I can fly?" Tanya put her arms on her hips. "That's preposterous," she said. "Vampires can't fly." They started out the bathroom door when Tanya suddenly stopped. "Are you okay?" Rachel asked. "You might have a problem," Tanya admitted to her. "When they come in tomorrow morning, the principal is going to see the broken window, and he's going to check the cameras and see everything." Rachel's heart skipped a beat. "Are you serious?" she asked. "We have to do something." Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. "I'm down!" yelled Andrew into his mic, trying desperately to crawl as fast as he could away from the enemy player trying to kill him. "I got ya," said Bilal, shooting down the guy after him. Bilal charged in to try and revive Andrew, but he was too late as a stray bullet hit Andrew in the side. "Crap!" Andrew said, dropping his controller on the bed. There was a rumble from downstairs, the noise of the garage door evidence that his parents had returned. Andrew threw on a pair of grey jeans over his Superman boxers and rushed downstairs to meet them in the front hall. "Be useful," Andrew's dad said, handing him a suitcase as the man came through the door. As soon as his dad let go of the handle, Andrew's arms dropped straight to the floor, the suitcase quite likely weighing more than him. "We got you something," his mom said, coming into the house before he'd had a chance to even attempt to move the suitcase. "Scarlett Johansson?" Andrew asked hopefully. "Keep dreaming," his dad said, grabbing the mail and moving into his office. It was called an office, but it really was just where his parents went to play their online game. Andrew's mom handed him a shirt. "Do you see what it says?" she asked him. "Yeah," he said. He didn't see it, but he already knew what game's logo to expect on the front. "Thanks." His pocket vibrated angrily, and he fished inside to pull out his iPhone. "It's Rachel Lin Smith. Code Black. Meet me at the school." And that's the end of that chapter, thank God, because I almost fell asleep there for I don't even know how long. Hopefully it wasn't too long. Hopefully just like 30 seconds. I apologize for the dead air. I apologize for all of that. I'm very heavy worked. I work full time, crazy hours right now. Not even nights yet. I went from nights for 6 years, and now they have me working early mornings. I start at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning, so I'm gonna end this now because, geez. But thank you for listening. I really appreciate all the support I get, man. I'm just trying to build an audience, and it's really difficult. I'm not having the best of time with it. It's just so hard, and like my goal in life is just to build enough of an audience that I don't have to work crazy hours. I don't have to work multiple jobs. I can just write, make enough money to live. That's my dream. But gotta start by building an audience. So, any support, just reading my stuff, listening to these podcasts, following me on Twitter, any support that you can give can help slowly build me towards my goal of, having an audience and, being being a trendsetter, and somehow by being a trendsetter I'll be able to make enough money to not have to work a normal job, I guess. I don't know what I expect, but 99% Geek and 99geek.ca. Go there. You can subscribe to my Patreon for just $1. That's really all the support I'm asking from any individual person. I want to strengthen numbers. That's what I want. I want lots of people to all watch and enjoy and give not a lot, just a little. And laugh, not a little, just a lot. Alright, so that's everything. I hope you enjoyed. The next chapter is chapter 7, You Think Heaven Gets Broadband. It's probably a quote. Anyway, so live long and prosper. May the force be with you. Oh, I have to end the broadcast.